piece that I want to get into right now is my favorite piece. I said before lunch, 22 years, how can you cut it down to a couple of hours? And certainly, that's a statement. Whoever was my skeptic in the room earlier, if you weren't skeptical about that, you should be. And certainly you can't learn how to be a great presenter, a great trainer, or anything in just a few hours. It takes lots of what? Practice. But there is a certain piece of it which I can say, and this is true in sales, this is true in presenting. There's a certain amount of technique, and there's also another piece. It's called congruence. What's it called? Congruence. What does congruence mean? Alignment. Inside matches the outside. Integrity. And part of it also, I think, is confidence. Part of it is confidence. So back in 1980, whatever, this was me. I had a vision of who I wanted to be. It was somebody that had more money, better leader, better relationships, more love in my life, all of that. The question was, how in the heck am I going to get there? How many of you have ever wondered that to yourself sometimes? I could take a lot of seminars and all that kind of stuff, and that's all part of it because learning is part of it. The question was then, is that one of the things that I learned is that there were a lot of great leaders out there, a lot of great mentors. I figured if I was going to build my own business and learn to teach, that if I could also learn to present, then that would accelerate the process. Because if I could overcome this fear up here, and be able to deliver, and be able to sell, be able to do all those things, then it would accelerate the building of my business. Does that make sense? That was my point of view. So the question was, so there were a couple questions. We wrote the be, do, have. The question is, who did I want to be? Not that I wasn't already that person. I'm not saying that. It's just that I certainly wasn't exercising the potential. How many people feel like you got more in you to give? More in you to tap into. So the question is, how do I get there? So one of the things that I did, as I mentioned to you, is I studied great leaders. Somebody came up to me at the break and talked about mentors. And I studied great leaders, great mentors, people that were great in sales, people that were motivators, people that got, mostly the people that I studied, my criteria was people that were able to get other people to do things they didn't think they could do. Because to me, that's the ultimate sales position. And there were great ones out there. People like John Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Christ. A lot of these people that were able to actually go out there and enroll people into being, doing, or having something they didn't think was possible at the time. Everybody understand? I said, boy, if I could learn how to do that. If I could learn how to do that. And so I did. I studied him and studied him and studied him. And so it worked. The process actually worked. What we actually did is we used to sit locked up in rooms and look at videos of some of these people and what their speeches and what they did and how they did it and what made it work, and used to actually model them. At one point we actually learned how to practice and deliver their speeches the same way they delivered them. Because what had happened is remember we talked about NLP and state changes. Remember, if you change one, you change them. So if you could model it physically, you should also be able to model it mentally and emotionally. Interesting. Who's the actress that was up here? Taylor. True, right? You actually become the character. Yeah, you actually feel it inside your body. So go, wow, man, if I could have the same power as a Martin Luther King, be able to access that, would that be powerful? Yes? So what I did is I studied great people, and I studied what it is that they did and how they did it, and So what I wanted to do with you is, before we go to dinner, is I just wanted to share a couple of those with you. Would you be interested in that? Okay, so it's a little movie time here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you I have video clips. There are many, many more than these. I have many, many more than these. I've just saved a few to show you because these are some of the most powerful for me. And I actually have even more on audio, but I wanted to give you the VAK on this rather than just their audio is also very kinesthetic, but there is no visual. Okay? So maybe at another point we can do that as well. Okay? So what I wanted to show you, I'm going to show you a few of these things. I want you to take a look at what is it that made these people great presenters. What allowed them to be great? Because I think to be a great trainer, you got to be a great what? Presenter. How many realize that? Yes? As a matter of fact, I think being a great presenter is actually more important than being a great trainer in many respects, because not all of you will ultimately be professional trainers. But most of you, if you're going to build a business, you need to be able to present. Everybody understand? Yes? Okay, good. All right, the first one I'm going to show you is John Kennedy. Let me kind of set this one up. Okay? Is Kennedy, and how many people know who I'm talking about? John Kennedy? All right, good. Anybody not? This is the original John F. Kennedy, okay? Dad here. Do we have to look at Blair's video bits? Can you turn the screen off while we're doing all this? Okay, good. Okay, there we go. Yeah, just freeze it there. Good, thanks. Now, this was back in the early 60s. Just to set the context on this. It's the end of the Cold War. Not the end of the Cold War. It was the heat of the Cold War, actually. And the Russians had just put Sputnik up in space, 1959, I believe. And so Kennedy was looking for some reason to rally America. And what he did is he went to NASA officials. And he said, okay, how long would it take to put a man on the moon? And they said about 40 years. Best estimate, about 25. But in fact, figured it wasn't even technology in place to figure out how to get somebody there and back safely. So they said 40 years. He said, okay, great. So the following week, he goes and he gives this speech at Rice University, which is this little university in north central Texas. And he gives it on campus, and he promptly says, somewhere in this speech, he says, by the end of the decade, we're going to put a man on the moon. And people are going, who told him to say that? And in fact, when was a person put on the moon? 69. So, very, very powerful sales presentation, if you will, but very powerful motivation. Now, I want you to take a look. Kennedy had his own style. I want you to take a look about this because I'm not showing you the whole speech, obviously. I'm just going to show you a short piece of it. But I want you to see what part of this worked. Can you guys see here? Okay. Okay. I want you to tell me what part of this worked in this case. Okay? Go ahead. Yeah, you can take the lights down a bit.